They say Paris is the city of lights, but for Meghan Markle, it turned into a city of shadows. What was supposed to be her glamorous comeback, the moment she redefined herself as fashion royalty, ended up being something completely different. The cameras were ready, the lights were bright, but behind those flashes, something was off. Whispers began before she even took her seat. By the end of the night, Paris wasn't talking about her outfit. It was talking about her. What really went down inside that Balenciaga show? Let's uncover the truth behind the night Paris quietly turned its back on Meghan Markle. Everyone thought this was Meghan's big return to power. After months of silence, this was supposed to be her "I'm back and you can't ignore me" moment. Sitting front row at Balenciaga, wearing designer couture, walking into a room full of editors, models, and cameras. It should have been iconic. But the second she stepped through those glass doors, the energy shifted. One stylist whispered, "You could feel the air freeze when she walked in." There were no excited hellos, no hugs, no compliments, just cold stares and polite nods. Meghan kept her chin high, pretending not to notice, but everyone could see it. The room wasn't impressed. It was uncomfortable. Usually when a duchess shows up at Paris Fashion Week, chaos follows. Photographers yell her name, fans scream, editors rush for a selfie. But that didn't happen this time. Meghan walked that carpet as cameras clicked, but the usual excitement wasn't there. Even the photographers seemed tired, snapping their shots without emotion. People around her kept their distance, literally. Nobody wanted to be the one standing too close. The tension was visible, like everyone was waiting for something awkward to happen. And then came the whispers. Quiet, fast, cruel. Because fashion circles are brutal when they smell weakness. By the time Meghan made it to her seat, the gossip had already started. Backstage staff were trading stories, and what they were saying was brutal. Several crew members claimed it wasn't her attitude that made things tense. It was her smell. Yes, that's what they said. Some described it as a mix of stress and cheap perfume. Others claimed the glam team was panicking, trying to spray everything they could to cover it up. One person joked, "You can fix makeup, but you can't fix that smell." It sounds harsh, but that's how fast gossip spreads in Paris. Within minutes, the entire backstage knew. By the time the show ended, everyone in the lobby was whispering about it. Not about Balenciaga's designs, not about Meghan's comeback look, just about her. And in Paris, there's one thing that's never forgiven. You can survive arrogance, even scandal, but bad hygiene? Never. That rumor was like poison. It spread quietly but quickly, and it ruined the moment that was supposed to make her shine. And that wasn't the only thing that went wrong that night. The truth behind her attendance was even more embarrassing. Many assumed she'd been personally invited by Balenciaga as an honored guest. But insiders said that wasn't true at all. It was a last-minute arrangement. A favor, not a grand invitation. The brand didn't roll out the red carpet for her. In fact, they only provided her with a single item, a pair of plain black heels. The rest of her outfit, borrowed. Nothing was custom-made or gifted. Even the tags were still attached because she was required to return everything after the event. In the fashion world, that's a quiet but brutal message. You're not part of the inner circle. Big names get custom pieces and endless gifts because designers trust that they'll bring prestige. But for Meghan, everything had limits. The fit was off, the details unfinished. There was no sense of belonging, just a silent reminder that she was being tolerated, not celebrated. Then came the part that truly disturbed people. After the show, Meghan reportedly took a drive through a certain tunnel in Paris. At first, people thought it was a normal route, just traffic. But then the whispers began again. That tunnel wasn't just any tunnel. It was the Pont de l'Alma, the same place where Princess Diana lost her life. When people found out, they were shocked. Meghan's team claimed it was a coincidence, that she didn't know. But no one in the fashion or media world believed that. They all knew how deeply she admired and studied Diana. Those close to her said she'd watched Diana's funeral over and over. She knew every detail, so how could she not know? The uncomfortable truth, according to insiders, is that she did know. Some even claimed she filmed herself there, trying to recreate the same emotion, to blur the line between herself and Diana. It wasn't just strange, it was unsettling. Paris has seen all kinds of scandals, but this one struck a nerve. Because it wasn't just about imitation, it was about obsession. A woman so educated, so media aware, driving through that tunnel, pretending not to realize the significance. It didn't make sense, and people noticed. This wasn't the first time Meghan's actions had clashed with her words. From the start, she's called the press cruel and dangerous, saying they destroyed Diana and were now out to destroy her and Harry. But here's what most people don't know. The same network that aired Meghan and Harry's big interview, CBS, is the same one that once purchased and broadcast the final images of Princess Diana's tragic accident. Those weren't taken or sold by the British press. They were sold by an American network. The same one Meghan later worked with to tell her story. It's the kind of irony that makes people uncomfortable. The woman who condemned media exploitation of tragedy ended up partnering with the very network that profited off Diana's death. Paris insiders didn't miss that. They whispered about it all night, calling it hypocrisy at its finest. To them, this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a calculated play for attention, one that backfired. Over the years, Meghan has tried to reinvent herself many times. First as a royal, then as a humanitarian, then as a media mogul. But those who've worked with her say the substance never matched the image. Her speeches were often ghostwritten, her projects vague, her team frustrated. Former staff described her as demanding without direction. And while she publicly asked for privacy, she was constantly calling photographers, arranging perfect, candid moments. The Paris Fashion Week appearance was meant to reset that image, to remind people she was still powerful, still relevant. But instead, it became the moment people saw through the performance. The confident smiles looked forced. The gestures seemed practiced. Everything felt like a scene from a movie she'd rehearsed too many times. The same woman who once captivated the world now looked like a character trying too hard to play a role. Even the press started noticing. Reporters began to ask what many had been whispering for months. Why didn't major designers want to dress her anymore? Why did big deals like Spotify and Netflix fall apart so quickly? Why, after all this time, did Harry seem more withdrawn than ever? The answers were unspoken, but obvious to those who'd seen her in Paris. The illusion was fading. The world wasn't buying the act anymore. When she finally left the Balenciaga show, the flashes still went off, but the energy was gone. There were no cheers, no excitement, just polite applause and quiet judgment. The same city that once adored Diana had no patience for imitation. Paris has a way of exposing what's real and what's not, and that week, it exposed Meghan completely. Behind the designer clothes and polished speeches, there was exhaustion. The woman who came to reclaim her crown ended up standing alone, surrounded by people who had already moved on. The glamorous image cracked, revealing something far less perfect, someone chasing a story that no longer belonged to her. By the time her car pulled away, the cameras still clicked, but not with admiration, with curiosity. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. What happened to the Meghan who once seemed unstoppable? The answer was there, hidden in plain sight. She'd built her world on performance, and in Paris, the performance finally ended. Paris gave her what she wanted, attention, but not respect. The lights flashed, the world looked, and for a moment, she believed she'd stepped into Diana's light. But what she didn't understand is that Diana's light came from truth, not from cameras. The difference between them was never about fame. It was about authenticity. In the end, Meghan's night in Paris wasn't a triumph. It was a revelation, a reminder that no matter how carefully you build an image, the truth always finds its way through. Paris doesn't reward pretense, it exposes it. And when the lights dimmed, Meghan wasn't shining anymore. She was standing in the glare, caught between who she wanted to be and who she really was. So, as the world watched her leave that night, one thing became clear. She came to Paris to be remembered, and she will be. But not for the comeback she planned. She'll be remembered for the moment the illusion cracked. And the truth finally took center stage. If you found this story revealing, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon. Because the truth behind celebrity headlines is often stranger than fiction, and there's always more to uncover.